Hello everybody, welcome to a new podcast episode. Today I invited Simply, the SM64 runner, a really good SM64 runner, and right away this episode went a little weird, like not in a bad way, but my OBS and, my Discord and my PC crashed 2 times during this recording, so I cut together the parts where my PC crashed and my Discord crashed, so I cut them out. So if something sounds weird to you, that's the reason. Like if we break in the middle of a sentence, that's the reason because of it. Otherwise, this episode was very brilliant. I will say when one of these cuts happened during the episode, like I will post-edit a voice section into it saying, here the Discord crash happened. So yeah, I hope that's no problem for you and enjoy the episode. It was a really good one. We talked about competitive speedrunning and mindset, hand issues, a lot of cool stuff. Hello everybody, my name is Voice177, the host of this podcast, and I have another great guest here. It's Simply from the SM64 community. I think anybody of you knows him, but if you don't know him, Simply, let's introduce yourself.
Hello, I am Simply. I speedrun Mario 64. I specialize in 120-star speedruns. I'm going for the world record, and I'm grinding every day. I also like to do commentary.
Commentary in what regard? Like just... Oh, in GSA means? Like, do you talk about GSA in that point?
Yeah, GSA, and also I've run several of my own tournaments, and currently I'm running a All Signs tournament, and that's almost done.
I've watched that video, like, talking about the All Signs tournament. Well, that's great. So you already said your like running tournaments in the speedrun scene. We will talk about that, but first of all, how did you like got into the speedrun scene? Where did you start it? When did you start it? And yeah, just tell us about that.
Sure. So before speedrunning, I was really into League of Legends, and I was only watching League of Legends streamers, and I was watching them on Own3D TV, and then that shut down, and I was like, well, where'd they move to? And they moved to Twitch. So I came to Twitch to watch League of Legends, but I stumbled upon Siglemic because he was like, at the time, one of, if not the biggest streamer on Twitch. Like for a short period there, Siglemic was like the king of Twitch. At least it felt like he was getting viewers that no one else gets with Mario 64, like 10,000 easy, 15,000 on a run.
Wow,
like, it was absurd. Crazy. And I played the game as a kid, and I was pretty fascinated, and so I never really intended to speedrun it, but I downloaded an emulator. Sorry, I got a stuffy nose, and tried out some tricks, and I was like, this is pretty fun. I'll try to do a run, and then just kind of kept going, and here I am.
Cool. Yeah, Siglemic, for all people not knowing, if you watch like all the GDQ marathon runs, he's like one of the founding fathers of the SM64 at GDQ, and like one of the coolest earlier people in the speedrunning scene. Maybe we can talk about that in another episode. But yeah, cool to see that you found out about speedrunning because of Siglemic. So yeah, I think you already said it in some way. What was your motivation behind speedrunning, and how did it start? Like, you started speedrunning because of Siglemic. You tried out a little bit here and there, and that got you rolling. But how did you come from that point to making like other speedrun content, like streaming it a lot? You basically a full-time streamer, as far as I know. Yeah. And you create also content on YouTube around speedrunning. So how did you come from just starting out as a speedrunner to that point?
Well, for the longest time, it was pretty much just a speedrunner, no side content. There was a point where I made a couple brief tutorials just because I wanted to help people out with things that took me a while to learn and just kind of give back to the community. But the main motivation is it's kind of self-fulfilling. It's like you just keep the ball rolling. Like when you PB, it just gives you such a burst of emotions and feelings that you just keep going. And the game, it's always a new challenge. Like it never stops. As soon as you PB, it's like automatically set up for you to have, okay, now I have this new challenge of beating that PB. And so it's like always got you going for a better time. And that's enough to keep me at it.
Yeah, I think it's like really important to see like every PB as a new opportunity. Like, oh shit, now I need to learn new strategies, otherwise I will never be consistently able to beat this new PB. I think every speedrunner can relate to that basically. And yeah, you said already one thing I really like about like the speedrunning community in general, that so many people are generous to help others out, because speedrunning in like the first place can be quite tricky to get into, or some things can be really difficult. So yeah, you also had a podcast, as far as I know. So can you maybe talk about that? Because I think you and Cheese, you approached the speedrunning topic as a whole in a very like unique way back then, at least, where because you not only talked about how you can like strategize and run better, but you also like to talk about like how to practice efficiently and mindset stuff. So maybe you can tell us a little bit about the time from that, because I think that was like partly a motivation for me to do this as well.
Yeah, the Two Dads podcast with Cheese. Well, it started out because I had to take a break from Mario because of my hand pains, which we'll talk about later.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
I was like, well, okay, now I have this 6-hour slot that's open up in every day. Like, what do I do at this time? So that's when I discovered that I liked commentating, and GSA wasn't even a thing at that point. It was for Speedrun. Oh, I don't even remember what it's called. I think they're still around, but they do like randomized tournaments and stuff.
Speed gaming?
Speed gaming.
Speed gaming
tournaments. I did commentary for them, and the podcast was just another thing to, give it a shot, see, because I know I like talking with people, and so the way that we did it, me and Cheese, looking back, both agree, we would want to do it differently. It was very much like we always had the same set of questions for everybody, and it just kind of got boring. And it was just like, how'd you get into speedrunning? What's your plans? What are you doing right now? We didn't really talk too much about other things, but yeah, it was fun to just get to know people a little bit better and where they came from around the community. And because Cheese is, kind of a big dad, we were able to get a lot of cool people on the podcast, and it was pretty fun.
Yeah, I think you already say like something I have to struggle with. Like it's sometimes so difficult to make every episode unique, because like, yeah, you want to know how do people start speedrunning, but what is like something unique they can talk about? And I think you can talk about like a lot of unique things, especially the next point. You already said it, the hand issues you had. Like you actually got, I have no idea what really happened to you, so I think you can just explain like what was the hand issue and how did it affected your speedrun journey. And how did it happen?
Yeah, so I started speedrunning in 2012, and then I had been on and off for a while, and no pain or anything. And then I started playing Melee in 2015, and I played Marth. And I played Marth for a year, and that was fine. But honestly, this was a stupid reason to switch to Fox, but I did it because I wanted people to shut up. So basically, the club that I played at, people were getting upset with my Marth. They were like, nah, bro, it's just because it's Marth. He can't play like Fox or anything. So I switched to Fox, and I just kept clapping cheeks. But and I liked Fox, but like I wasn't able to keep it going. Like I wanted to like take Fox to the next level and learn all the crazy tech. But practicing that stuff, actually, it's like very intense on your hands.
Yeah.
And so my hands started getting like tired. They started burning, and then like burning sensations. I was like, man, I don't think I can do this anymore. And I was talking with Sick Lemmet because I know that he had hand issues at the time, and he's basically like, yeah, you just kind of got to take a break. And so I did that. And then I tried to come back to Mario, and then that was like when I really thought I was about to get world record. I was like really close. It was going to happen. I was feeling good. And then the pain got to be too much, and it was like I couldn't do anything. Like doing dishes hurt, like writing notes in class hurt, everything hurt. Life just sucked.
Crazy.
And I went to multiple doctors, and that was I think that was 2017 or 2018 when I ultimately got to the point where I was like, yeah, I can't play anymore. And I got multiple diagnoses that I had like tendonitis, carpal tunnel, cubital tunnel still in this hand. I don't know if it's still there. I'd be interested to get a diagnosis, but yeah, I tried everything. I tried a bunch of stretching, icing, taking breaks, strengthening, everything that they recommended. And the only thing that provided me any kind of relief was strengthening. And it was only a little bit. I was still only able to play for like maybe an hour or two before I was like, my hands. And then a viewer, I had done these streams where it was just stretching. I called it Stretch Gang, where people would just come and I was just chatting while I was stretching my hands, and like, because I wanted to stream and talk to people, but I couldn't like do anything without being in pain. And so a viewer recommended a book called The Mind Body Prescription, which is basically a book about how your emotions can play a key role in, especially repressed emotions, can play a key role in chronic pains like back pain, arm pain, carpal tunnel, stuff like that. And so at that point, I tried everything. So I was like, all right, well, I'll give it a shot. We'll see what happens. And within a week of reading the book, I was basically painless and back to playing Mario. And I was like, oh my God, this is absurd. Like, all I had to do was just address these things going on in my life, like in my unconscious, take a real look at, reflection on what I'm dealing with. And it hasn't come back since. I've been playing for four or 5 months now. Pretty much 4 to 8 hours a day, no pain at all, nothing, just feels fine. I stopped stretching, I stopped strengthening. I was doing that stuff every day for months with a little bit of relief, and now I'm chilling.
Man, I love this story because I'm a big fan of so much is going on just inside our head, and we can change so much if we just subconsciously think in different ways. And your story is the perfect example for this. I find this so crazy. I can see did you probably get a lot of people who were a little disbelieving you in some regard, oh, it can't just be you reading that book and all of a sudden it changes. Isn't that wasn't that kind of strange to some people around you or even to yourself?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it was something that I had thought about in the past, but I never really believed it. I had thoughts like, man, can you just heal yourself mentally? Mm-hmm. And that's a key of it. That's a part of it, but I didn't realize the repressed emotions was a part of it. But yeah, people came in. There wasn't really too many people who didn't believe it or whatever. Pain is a weird thing because you can't show someone and be like, yeah, see, look, it's hurting. You just tell people. So you just. But I mean, I know what I felt. It was definitely it's just unplayable, just not fun. And so there's definitely some people who were like, yeah, that makes no sense, which fair enough. You don't have to believe it. It worked for me. Mm-hmm. So that's all that really matters, I guess, at the end of the day.
So would you say your hand pain really started because you tried to push yourself too far beyond limits, or was it something you couldn't really avoid because of how your body was built up? I don't know. Maybe you can say that because I think to... Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I think it started with Melee. I mean, it's weird because looking back, maybe it was going to happen no matter what. Just the way that I was treating myself emotionally, maybe it was just bound to happen. But I feel like it was accelerated because, I mean, it's mental, right? So it's I know that going into Melee, and I've heard of all these Fox players who get hurt in hands. So maybe this whole time I'm programming myself to be ready, because the way that, at least in the book, it describes your body and your brain are very smart, and they will do whatever makes sense. And so it makes sense that if I grind this game a lot and do these very technical things, that it's going to start hurting, because it's oh, my hands just can't handle it. So that's where it started, and then it just got worse with Mario. I wonder if I never played Melee, if I would have ran into this. But I'm kind of glad that I did. At the time, I was this is the worst thing that ever happened. But there's always a reason, I think. Curse and a blessing.
So when you now have all, I know this maybe is a long point, but I wanted to finish it off nice. So do you think if you would have if you have all the knowledge you have today, do you think you could have avoided it back then? And for anybody else who has also hand issues, what could you recommend them so they will never suffer through the way you suffered it? If you understand my question here?
Yeah. So if I knew what I knew now back then, yeah, I don't think I would have had to take a break. But I don't know if I would have been as open to the idea after having,
Here my Discord crashed, so the episode interrupted for a little bit, but we tried our best to keep the conversation going, so I hope that's fine for you. I told you we had some PC issues during that recording. Okay, I think if you still remember what I asked, I think you can just start there and I will cut it nicely together.
Yeah, so I was saying, once you have enough pain, you'll do anything and you'll try everything. And so I think if I didn't have to go through all that stuff, then I probably wouldn't have been, as open to it, or pretty much that. So I think I would have still fallen into it maybe a little bit, but for people who have stuff now, I mean, if you're open to that idea, or you've been dealing with it for a long time and you've tried other stuff, then I would definitely recommend reading the book. I've had multiple people come in my chat and say, "Oh, I saw your video, I read the book, and like my hand, like my pain, like people have had back pain and stuff. They're like, my pain is pretty much gone. Like this is crazy." And it's just like it's a cool moment to share with someone because it's something that I think you can only truly understand when you've gone through it. Like I literally felt like I was God or something. I was calling people and being like, "Yo, I just did this. Like I just healed my hands with my brain." And people were telling me to shut up because I had a couple buddies and like I just kept saying, "I no longer have pain because I use my brain." Like I just
yeah, it sounds weird at first, but I love the story. You can probably send me the book link after this recording, so I can put it into the description of the episode.
Sure.
Okay, we will do that, so you hear it, everybody. If you have hand pain, then there's a nice link for you in the description at the end of this. Okay, I think, is there anything you want to say to this point more, or do we think we are done here with the hand pain issues?
I guess the last thing is, like, I definitely don't want to be like, can I swear on this podcast?
It's okay.
I don't want to be like, fuck doctors or anything like that. I think that, like, it can come off that way, like, oh, they don't know what they're talking about. Oh, because they're like, you need surgery and stuff like that. But for some things, I think it's definitely worth looking into because as I've grown more, I've realized like just how connected mind and body really are. So I don't know, it just makes sense. But yeah, that's about it.
I like that. I like that, yeah. Approaching things with, like, subconscious mind is, like, I think it's so important in every aspect of the life, but so less people are, like, willing to accept that fact. That's, like, really sad. Okay, one thing where, like, we didn't touch it really, but speedrunning and esport, it's, like, back then when GSA started to become a thing, like, there was a lot of talking about that topic, and, like, you are one of the members of GSA as far as I know, or like you have a lot to do with them. Can I say that?
Not as much these days, but yeah, like for the first year I was pretty much very hands-on with GSA, but now I've taken quite a big step back. I still do commentary very sparingly, but yeah, I'm just kind of chilling.
Okay, so what was like your, like, why did you started to do this, and like what was your motivation? What is your personal take on speedrunning and esport, and what do you think should the future of speedrunning esport should look like, if you can like really say something about that?
Yeah, so the typical format we've been seeing is tournaments where people just go 1v1 to do like best of threes and such, and those are all right, but sometimes you just know it's over for a long time and it's like, why am I even watching this? Like sometimes there could be turnarounds, but the thing is these are like top players, so it's pretty rare for people to be messing up, and so there's a lot of just, you see the same thing over and over and over again. It's not like Smash or whatever where it's very dynamic. You know, people have like a personality with their play style. Everybody's kind of just doing the same thing. Some people have a little bit, but you know, I stuck with it for a good year, and I'm not like super into it. Like it's all right. I mean, I host tournaments myself, but I also, with those, I have a lot more freedom to just say dumb things, and I'm not really talking about the race that much. I'm usually just like bullshitting with the chat or whatever, because like it just gets boring sometimes. Like the race is just not interesting. Like especially if somebody loses like 2 minutes at the beginning, it's like, yeah, do you really want me to talk about this race like it matters? No, I'm just gonna talk some garbage. So I still think that there is something there, and I'm not quite sure what it looks like, but Break the Record happened recently, and there's been some bounties cropping up, and the bounties are definitely pretty hype. I think that it's cool because a bounty, it's not like this corporation is running the show and then these people come on, but they don't really get much out. The cool thing about a bounty, and what I personally experienced with the Mario 64 120-star bounty, is people are interested in the grind. Like they want to see how that looks, and so I had a lot of new viewers coming in and people watching just to see, you know, what happens, like who's going to get it. And so I think the people who are running get a lot more exposure to their channels, and obviously like a chance at some bones. So I think bounties are pretty cool. Break the Record was awesome.
Yeah.
That was like one of the coolest things I've ever been a part of. I really liked that. And so if competitive speedrunning is going to work, I think it's going to be something along those lines. And if that's how it is, I don't know if there's like a way to really, I don't know what it's going to look like, but GSA is still going, of course, and they're making it work, and they definitely have some hype matches But yeah, I don't know if tournaments are the end be all. I think there's a lot that you can play with. I mean, speedrunning itself is very arbitrary and very you can take stuff in, put stuff out, whatever, try different things, different orders. And so I think there's something there.
Yeah, I especially like I loved GSA break the record. ESA break the record. Because it was like the best thing about it was like the commentary of the like weekend. I really loved it that it goes like in deep on some streamers, and that you can like you had like a specific time window each day where you can like do your runs, right? And you had like one race in the morning. That was like really cool. And the best thing about this entire bounty, in my opinion, was that like you could see like so many people grinding. Like I sometimes watch your stream or Cheese stream, and it was like really cool how all these people got back into this grinding mentality, because I think when you really try to break a new record, you have to approach speedrunning in a different way if you just want to do it for fun or for like basic improvement. If you understand what I mean. It was like really, really cool to see, and I think it gives much more exposure to speedrunning. So would you think that that competitive speedrunning should or will become a part project of what speedrunning is today, like aside marathons like charity marathons like GDQ? Do you think that or do you hope that esports and competitiveness, like these bounties, will be like that these two things like will be 50-50 of the speedrunning exposure, like the big speedrunning exposure? Like what are your thoughts on that future?
Yeah, I mean in an ideal world, part of the problem is like you need to grind a lot in order to get to a point where you can like push these times, and not everyone has that much time, especially if you're not making any money off of it. And I'm very fortunate and very lucky to have the following that I do and the ability to grind as much as I want, because people will watch and people will support the stream. But like if you want to get a bounty and stuff like that, and you don't have that support, it's harder to rationalize it, especially if the bounty money isn't that crazy. So I think for it to really work, it would need to be like a consistent thing, and I'm not sure if that's going to happen, but I think the occasional bounties are really cool and realistic. Like EasyScape just tweeted out that he got a sponsor.
Yeah, I saw that too.
Some money to ran like stuff, bounties, weird categories is what it sounds like he's looking for. So yeah, I think I don't know. I forget exactly what the question was.
Yeah, it's fine. One thing also, TGH. For one thing, TGH said in his tweet was he's not he likes the idea of bounties, but he said from a runner perspective, those are really stressful, and they can ruin the fun of speedrunning. What is your take on that?
Wait, are we able to be heard?
I see that too.
Oh, never mind. We're good. Okay. TGH mentions that bounties take the fun out of speedrunning. I had never been in a bounty in the deep of it, if you will, and so I didn't really know how to tackle it. And so for me, it definitely was a matter of like this is affected me mentally. It's like you feel guilty if you're not playing and you're not grinding, but when it's like the first person to get a 138 is going to get $5,000, then it's like you want to spend all the time you can grinding for that, because like I know I can do it, I know all these guys can do it, and so it's constantly on your mind, this competition in order to get a 138. It weighs on you, and I was definitely starting to go crazy, and I can sympathize with the like losing its fun value, because you feel like you're playing when you don't even want to. It's like the game is playing you aren't really playing the game anymore. But I don't think that I don't think that that's completely the bounty's fault. I think it's partially it, but I think it's actually more on the individual. And near the end of the bounty, I started taking a break and started doing like all signs. And then I was having more fun. Like I was having way more fun, and I was playing better. Like you don't need to put raw hours in to play good at all. Like, in fact, sometimes taking a break and sometimes playing less is actually better for you, I think.
Yeah, I think if you want me to, I can actually read out the tweet. I just got it here. Like, he says, hot take, we don't need more bounties. Take it from someone who's been racing Celeste and competing for cash prizes for the last year and a half. Money has a motivator for self-improvement, and lowering a time can and will lead to burnouts for some people. I'm all for money in competitions/tournaments as prizes, don't get me wrong, but something about this type of reward for setting a benchmark time or achieving a goal, something that's normally made special by the oh god, I can't read English, I'm sorry. Intrinsic, I don't know that word, motivations to achieve it rubs me a very wrong way. I don't know. Like, yeah, I think you said it already, that I think you have to understand yourself better. Like, do I really want to do this for fun or just for the money? And you have to balance that really well, I believe. But maybe you can say a little bit better. I know I read this like very terrible. You probably didn't understand anything.
Yeah, I think no, you're good. You got it pretty much. The word is intrinsic. I guess intrinsic just means like internal, like deep value or something, I guess, like
Okay.
just intertwined with. But yeah, I mean, if your motivation wasn't there in the first place, then you're probably going to hit a burnout. And as we saw from the 120 star bounty, I mean, the only people who are still running is like myself and Liam, and Punke's now getting back into it. But at the time, it was like Tego stopped for hand reasons. Tego was actually still grinding afterwards. Cheese, Punke a little bit, Paracusia, and it's definitely like I've thought about burnout more and more as I've played more, because I myself worry about that. You know, like, as a speedrunner, will I be able to do this for months, or am I going to burn out? And I think I've come to the conclusion that burnout is just like a byproduct of a poor mindset, or it's just like it's a byproduct of pushing yourself beyond what you actually want to do, or what you actually want out of the game. So like, if all you wanted was a 139 and like you actually don't really care about getting a 138, then you're going to burn out grinding for a 138 because you don't actually care that much about it. Like, you're like, yeah, I'm happy with this time. I think I'm good to stop here. And then those are the points where it's not a burnout. It's like you're taking a break, and then maybe you'll come back later and grind again, type thing.
Okay. Yeah, before I want to move on to the mindset aspect, because we mentioned so often how important mindset is. Do you think, like, in general, and you partly answered it already, but do you think putting money into speedrunning will, or has the potential to really ruin this hobby? And how do you think should we approach that in general? Like, to just sum it up here, because a lot of people say, yeah, when you put money into it, then people don't do it because for the community or because they want to improve the game. They just do it for money, and it's like kind of, ruining the spirit of the community at that point. That's what some people are scared of. I think you remember that Oddbot tweet longer or anything like that.
I don't know if I saw that.
Okay.
But
it was like in the beginning of GSA, he said like, I don't want to support this, and money is like going to ruin speedrunning, and like,
oh yeah, I think I remember that.
Cheaters and splicing and all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, the spirit of speedrunning has always been like a very self-improvement type thing. It's never really been about the money or the viewers. Like, there's plenty of people grinding world records, grinding the same stuff, and getting no recognition whatsoever just because of a pure love of the game. And so I don't think that's going to change at all with bounties. But I think the bounties might get more people involved that otherwise would not be. And maybe initially they're involved because they're like, oh, money might be cool, but then they discover actually that they have a deep love for the game. I just know that when you're going for money and that's your motivation, it's never going to work. Like, it's never going to be something that will last long. And I think there will always, like, the reason speedrunning has stuck around and people keep doing it and are so fascinated by it is because it's like a very deeply satisfying journey. You know, if you like the game and you like how it feels and you like the improvement, like, you're going to have a good time. And trying to figure out how to balance money and stuff like that is just another skill that I think you'll need to have. You know, it's like you get blinded by the money and you kind of forget what you were doing in the first place. And it's just part of the process, part of learning how to navigate. It's like a new obstacle, adds a little bit more dynamics.
I love how you said that. Okay, we said a lot about mindset, how like a poor mindset can make you burn out in speedrunning, and let's talk about that. Like, how can we describe in the first place mindset and speedrunning? Like, what is the interaction between these two, basically?
So, for a while, I thought speedrunning was very unique, and it's like not like anything else. But I've now realized that it's basically the same thing as anything else. It's like a sport. It's like tennis or anything where you're doing the same stuff over and over. Mindset is 100% crucial in order to keep yourself calm and keep yourself focused, because if you like, you're going to have thoughts that come in your head, and if you're playing good, these thoughts can like poison the well, so to speak, and the same thing can happen if you're playing bad. And so when you have a poor mindset, I guess it's like when you start doing good and you start having good runs, you start to kind of take it for granted and forget like what got you there in the first place. And usually it's just like a good, strong level of focus and humility. And if you develop like some sort of ego where you're like, oh man, these runs are so easy, like I'm just churning these out, the next thing you know, you're gonna fall down from grace, and you're gonna have a very rude awakening where all of a sudden now you're playing like garbage, and you're like, man, I don't know, can I even play this game anymore? Am I burning out? And then you're just basically, I mean, Punkei has said it, it's like you don't want to think, because the thoughts are just going to take away from the experience. Like really, the best way to play and to do anything really is to just do that and nothing else. Like just focus on the game and not really think about too much, because obviously you have the skill, obviously you've had good runs before. So what's different? It's whatever's going on in your head.
So what you're saying, because you said don't think, you mean it in don't think during the run, but still think afterwards or before that about your speedruns, right?
I think it's good to reflect. I try to like reflect as I'm playing, so I kind of try to keep like, it's like while I'm playing, I'm like trying to zoom out to watch what's going on in my head, because I find it interesting to see like if I do reset or if I make a mistake, was I actually focusing, or was I kind of lost in my head? And a lot of the times I was lost in my head, like just thinking about stupid things, thinking about, oh man, will this be world record? Or, oh man, I'm hungry. Like you'll just have all these different thoughts that you need to learn how to, I don't know if suppress is the word, but it's more like just tune back into the game. Notice that you have the thought, but let it go.
Yeah. I think that's like so weird about speedrunning for me sometimes, when like you have days where you are so close to your PB or actually PB so often, but then you like one thing goes off and you do like one mistake in one room or in one area of the game, and for the next like 10-20 runs you keep doing this mistake for whatever reason. It's like so momentum based that once you mess up something, it's so difficult to get back into your own rhythm. And I think that comes because you have a hard time focusing yourself. Like you have a hard. And here my PC crashed completely. Like I got a blue screen in the middle of a stream. I never had that before. It was really awkward. So after rebooting my PC for like 10 minutes, I got back into a call with Simply, and we tried our best to finish off the episode. It was at the very end, like only a few more minutes were to come. So I hope the episode is still good for you from here on out. And enjoy the rest of it. So yeah, I think we start right now here, by the way. I should have said that. Right. So yeah, I think one thing that's like really interesting about speedrunning is that it's like it's so easy to mess up and keep being stuck in that mess up loop. That's how like I had to call it. I had like some rooms in Celeste, I speedrun Celeste, where I never had a mistake since ever I speedrun the game. I still use the same thread because it's like the most optimal, simplest thread to use there. And at some point, I started to do once a mistake there, and ever since then, like, it's a 50-50 if I get this thread now or not. And that's, like, super weird and strange. And I think it all comes down to how much you can focus on the run and how much, like, how good you are at understanding what's going wrong and how good, you can focus again on it. So I think you said it was really good. One other thing I see a lot in my streams, for example, a lot of my viewers have that kind of mindset. They look at their PBs and achievements in, I want to say, in a negative way. Like they say, oh, it's not good enough. Oh, this run sucks. Even though it's like their best run ever, they still say it sucks. And they always argue it with because they want to do a better run. And I feel like that's like not like I don't know if it works for you, it works for you, but it's not the most ideal way. So what's your like take on that? Like seeing your PBs at bad, so it's like a motivation for, like they argue it with, oh, my run sucks, but that makes me motivated that I still want to improve. Do you get what I mean by that?
Yeah, it's very commonplace in the speedrunning community to say this run sucks. Like Liam just got 120 star world record, and by the end of his speech, he was like, "Man, this run just sucks. It's just garbage." And like obviously, it's not the case. You know,
Yeah.
Everyone has their own standards, and typically, it's like I think it's just prolonged periods of not getting a PB. You're still improving at the game, so then what used to be or what would have been an okay PB a couple months ago that you haven't gotten yet is now garbage. So now you're just resetting runs that could PB because you don't want like a small PB. And I mean that's fine if that's how you want to play, but I've been trying to adjust a little bit more in order to go for those 1 second PBs. I've always been a big fan of those because it's just like it's proof that you can do it, you can clutch it out, and you can do better than that. And it also kind of resets your perspective. You know, if you reset a lot of runs and you don't get very deep into the run very often, you actually do start to distort your perspective on how good your run actually is. And you're like, oh no, I need this good of a time, when really you don't. You could be like way behind and still PB, but you don't really know because you haven't taken them that far.
I think that's like a common thing, and I personally dislike resets. In like most games, I think resets are not as much needed as people abuse them. Like games like Celeste, for example, like if you die in the early chapters, there's like 1 or 2 seconds of a death. Even if you're 5 or 4 seconds ahead behind after the first few chapters, you can still like easily PB there because there's so much time in the late game. And like I don't know, in SM64, probably if you do like minor movement losses in the early game, you can probably still PB because late game is like there's so much to get out of it. And I think that's like one thing, this entire reset mentality, that I try to as hard to avoid it. It's not avoidable in every game, but I see a lot of people reset way too often, and I don't know, it's no good. It's no good. Like speedrunners tend to try to be too perfect, and it's like ruining them.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to get upset and start getting into like a negative thought loop when you're resetting way more than if you're taking runs that may not be the best runs ever, but like you're getting to see more of the game.
Yeah.
Like time just goes by way faster if you're getting runs deep than if you're just resetting in like the first 20 minutes.
Yeah, I always find, like for me personally, when I reset after like in the early games so often, I personally like stop enjoying speedrunning so much. Like if I just do full runs, like it takes me maybe 20, 30, 40, 50 attempts to get like a good run going, but at least I'm enjoying my time. And if I just reset in the same amount of times every of my run that's like that much behind, I would like after maybe an hour or two I would just stop resetting because it's like so fucking boring for me.
Yeah.
One thing I think, I don't know if it's able to if you are able to say that, but what would be like the ideal mindset and how you get to this point? Like not only in a run, because like mindset in a run is really important, but what is like ideal for you when, for example, you practice? How much importance should you put into this, and what should your approach be, and how do you figure out what's like really good for you? I know it's like a fucking weird question to answer and really complex, but if you could try to talk about this, then we would have a nice finish for the episode.
Yeah, I think the ideal way to look at it all is you really want to give your 100%. I feel like when you start half-assing anything, it's just not as fun or engaging, and you're also just not going to see the results that you're looking for. So just actually giving your 100%. accepting and realizing that this game is hard, that this challenge is worth going for, and it's not going to be easy, but it is going to be fulfilling. And keeping your head up, especially, just don't beat yourself up. You realize that you're going to reset. You're going to, don't get attached to runs, stay focused. That's pretty much, if you can keep that mindset, that's what I would say is pretty much the ideal mindset for speedrunning.
Okay, well, then that's a beautiful episode. We will stop now the official recording. So thank you for all the podcast listeners here at this point. That was Simply and me talking about mindset, hand pain, and all kinds of speedrun things. So thank you all for listening, and goodbye now.
Bye.
Yo, I really hope you enjoyed this episode despite the odds of like my PC crashing. It was really, really nice. We had a lot of viewers actually live on Twitch. So a little reminder, if you want to see these live or want to ask personal questions to the streamer or questions you're interested in, if you have any struggle with speedruns or you want any tips from my guests or me, then come to my stream. We do stream the podcast recordings over there, and we also I also speedrun and play Kaiser Mario over there, so if you want to talk about anything regarding speedrunning or improving in a video game, I'm always there to help you guys. So I think that was like a really, really good episode. I hope you liked it. I try my hardest to get another episode out next week, but I'm a little unsure if this is going to happen. I'm a little low on guests to record with, so yeah. Hope that's not too bad if there's no episode for you next week, but I will try my hardest to keep this podcast running. Thank you for all your support, and see you hopefully next week or in one of my streams. Bye!